Welcome back to the Film Cynics. Steve and Brian sitting in on a Sunday afternoon. We just talked about the Olympics in a sort of not TV context, so I'm feeling a little bit guilty about that. So
I'm not, because it's the Olympics and they're happening in our neighbor city.
Yeah.
And it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And you know what? We didn't talk about movies or TV, so what? It's
Well,
the Olympics.
Well,
It's
I
fun.
mean, dear listeners, you are not here to hear us talk about my escapades with my family, but we are here to talk about a certain, I guess, an under-celebrated hero of writing for television and film, Mr. Joss Whedon. Those of you out there who are familiar with the name, I guess he's best associated with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and most recently with Dollhouse. So, Brian, you've cataloged a list of 5 celebrated or under-celebrated projects that he worked on that got canceled or at least not acknowledged properly.
Or acknowledged only.
Okay, well, why don't you break it down for us? And what inspired you to come up with it?
I was going to watch the final episode of Dollhouse. I had it on my PVR for a few weeks on Friday night, and because I watched the previous season's unaired episode, which is sort of tied together, Epitaph 1 and Epitaph 2. So I was getting ready to watch that. I'm like, what should I do for my top 5? Because it's Thursday at midnight, and I got to get this thing out in the morning.
Or else Steve's going to give you a sock in the face.
And so I'm like, I love Joss Whedon's work, so I'm just going to give Joss Whedon a shout-out and tell you all the great things that he's done. And these are the top 5 of my favorite things of Joss Whedon's written.
All right.
Number 5, which I didn't know until recently, he is one of the writers or screenplay writers on Toy Story.
I did know that.
I knew that about...
That's my business to know these things.
3 months ago. Once I found that out, I'm like, really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To have your name attached to something that is so iconic in the animated film world. Like, Toy Story to me was that first movie that sort of really jump-started the whole computer animation.
Yeah.
And has started all this now. Like, all these movies have come after Toy Story. So to be credited as one of the screenplay writers on Toy Story, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm kind of confused about how that actually would have transpired, like exactly how was he dialed in with these guys?
4 people wrote the story, wrote the basis, but they needed it written into an actual screenplay, and then you go, hey, I know this kid, he's Joss Whedon, he's a good writer, let's bring him on board.
Nice.
And he came on and got to help write the screenplay, which is a great job for anyone who was probably fairly new to the industry at the time.
Yeah, that is why if you have the opportunity to get an internship at Pixar, you take it.
Exactly. You never know.
Okay, number 4, what do you got?
Number 4 on the list was Dollhouse, which was the latest series of his to get canceled. And it's kind of a confusing story, excuse me, about the ability to imprint personalities into people, and they can become whatever you want. They're basically dolls, and you can say, hey, I want a doll that can be a ninja. So they imprint a ninja personality, and all of a sudden you have this little girl or guy that can be a ninja.
Right.
And it was a really cool idea. There's the ability to do it. It kind of got off track at the beginning, and people weren't quite sure what to make of it. Fox put it on a terrible night and ran it on Fridays.
Yeah, but,
which is not a good night for TV.
It was running on Fridays with Sarah Connor, the Terminator, Terminator
and
Sarah
Connor. That got canceled too.
Yeah, well.
Because it's Friday night. People don't watch TV on Friday night, no matter how good it is. But towards the end of its run, once Dollhouse kind of knew it was done, they started ramping up the stories, and it got really good, and I was in love with it. I thought it could have gone to so many different places, and it was such a great idea for a sci-fi genre piece, but...
my problem with that show, and I just quickly, is that, so they're imprinting the skills on these people in a sort of Matrix style, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Tank, I need to know how to fly a chopper right now. Blah, 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 it's done. But they're also imprinting the personalities onto them so that you can't actually get to know the actual characters. At least this is how it was at the beginning. My understanding is as the series went on.
And the series went on, they would want more backstory on who these people are and how they became dolls and how they got in the situation. And
because if they're constantly changing and you can't get to know them, then you can't engage with them, then you can't be invested in the show.
Yes, you can, because they start telling you the backstory of who they are and why they're here, and you start feeling why you like this doll and that doll. And it was well done. And mostly focused around the Elijah Dushku character and her doll. And she was sort of like the Uber doll, and she could retain her own personality and every other personality that ever got imprinted on her. She became like this, kind of mad
super
scientist.
Doll. Yeah, I just think that I think Joss overestimated his audience, especially the Fox audience.
Yeah.
All due respect, he just had his curve a little weird. I think you got to get the characters interesting right from the top, and then try and bring in other elements. You got to have everybody fascinated with the characters in the pilot, and he didn't quite do it. And it was a tricky uphill battle for him, and it didn't quite work.
This probably would have worked better on a different channel like Sci-Fi or USA or something, like a little more lowbrow, not lowbrow, but smaller scale, where you can spend the time to develop it, where Fox wants a hit right away or else it's not going to work.
Exactly. Okay, well, what do you got for number 3, buddy?
Number 3 is Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog.
Love it.
Which is a great little 3 or 4 part series that he had made for the internet during the writer's strike, because they had nothing to do. They couldn't produce any TV or movies, so he's like, hey, let's make something for the TV.
Yeah.
So him and his brother Jed got together and wrote the story about a mad scientist played by Neil Patrick Harris, Dr. Horrible, who's trying to fight Captain Awesome?
Captain Hammer.
Captain Hammer, played by the amazing Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's a musical, and it's a comedy, and it's a little drama and action, and it's so good and awesome.
And it was made for the internet, and it was. I love the fact that it was like a get lemons, make lemonade kind of story. Like that they had no ability to make television, but they still had all this creative juices flowing. So yeah, they made something outside of the system, and they put it up in a different kind of forum. And I mean, now you can get it on DVD. I mean, I have it at home on DVD.
Yeah. It's just one of those little things. It probably only runs an hour total in length.
If that.
If you're to watch all the parts strung together. And it is just so much fun and so funny. And it's got that Joss Whedon humor to it. And that just dialogue that he has and the way he can write characters is just so good.
So yeah, it's done as if the mad scientist was doing a weblog, but he's singing into it, and everybody winds up singing. So yeah, it was very original. I mean, I can't agree with you more. I highly recommend anybody check it out. You can find it on YouTube. You can go buy the DVD. I know HMV carries it. I'm sure other people do. Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog. It's the reason Neil Patrick Harris, I think that he is super cool right now.
Exactly. It's one of those reasons why.
All right.
Number 2 on my list is the second most famous, popular Joss Whedon project is Firefly/Serenity. Firefly was the TV show he had done for Fox that got canceled because no one watched it. Serenity is the movie that he made based on the TV show. It's science fiction. It's great science fiction about a group of war heroes, sort of. Maybe,
yeah, they're war losers, actually.
War losers that kind of travel around the universe not solving problems, but they do solve problems.
Well, they're smugglers like Han Solo,
yeah.
So they get in and out of different kinds of scrapes and troubles, and
they know people here and there. And it's just got a great cast, starring Nathan Fillion, who is Castle right now on ABC. Yep. Great show there. But it's him, Alan Tudyk as Wash. It's just a really strong cast, really great science fiction.
Yep.
I loved it. I remember you giving me the DVDs. I think it was you that gave them to me.
Oh yeah.
And I just could not believe I had never seen this before. Like, how could I have never watched Firefly?
No, I really love the concept for it, and like Joss got inspired by reading a book about what was happening to the Civil War losers, to the guys of the South after the war. Where'd they go? They had no place that they could call their home, so they just sort of wandered aimlessly. And this is the same kind of situation. It was an intergalactic civil war between these different planets, and so yeah, Nathan Fillion's character and a couple others just happened to be on the wrong side of the battle. And so, yeah, where do they find their homes? They have to be nomads and try to carve out a place for them in the world. It's very, very, very good, very clever, great writing, great effects, great concepts. It was one of the first shows to actually come up with the idea of CG imperfections to make it seem more real, which I thought was really, focusing on
camera moves on computer-generated effects.
Okay, number 1, dude.
Number 1 is obvious. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I had never watched this show until it was all done. It was over its run because I was like, who would want to watch a show based on a terrible movie?
Yeah.
I had no interest in it. Then a friend of mine was like, no, seriously, watch it. It's really good. I'm like, all right, I'll watch the first season. I could not stop watching that show until I'd finished all 7 seasons of it. It's about a girl who can kill vampires, Buffy, obviously, and just a gaggle of friends that surround her, and Willow, and all the people that sort of come into her life, and Spike, the vampire that she's kind of in love with, but not, and all this weird...
Well, Angel that he's in love with, and Spike then later.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's just kind of...
I know enough about it, too.
It's like a teen drama with vampires. It's just really good. It's so funny and dark at the same time. It's the perfect Joss Whedon vehicle.
Yeah.
Because he's really good at writing character arcs that take 3 or 4 seasons to resolve. So you don't get answers right away. You get answers in the end, which is great. Sometimes you might get answers for an entire season. There will be a subplot, but by season 5, you find out why Buffy is like this or who did what. So you really get invested into it, and you really want to watch it. And that's what I love about Joss Whedon, is the arcs that he can build when writing a story.
Yeah, and I think that's why you wanted Dollhouse to go further, right? Because you figured he could keep it going. No, yeah, I agree. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, terrible movie, incredible TV show. Okay, we're going to take a news break. When we come back, Brian and I are going to talk about Shutter Island. Stay with us.